If you ever wish that you could sit down with your ex, ask the hard questions, get real answers, and walk away with peace instead of pain, this is the conversation that you've been waiting for. I'm Marshawn Olanio, and my guest today, my very special guest today, is my ex-husband, Charles. We were together for 9 years and married for 7 of those 9 years. From the outside, we looked very happy, barely argued. We took vacations, spent time with both sides of our families, but underneath the surface, there were cracks. Cracks that I don't even believe that either one of us really knew were there. And then there was a moment that changed our lives completely. Today, we are answering the most questions that couples never dare to talk about, especially after divorce. Why didn't our marriage last? Were we emotionally safe for each other? Why didn't we seek therapy? And could we have done anything differently? Now, this isn't about drama. This isn't about blame. This is really to have a real conversation where there is raw reflection and the kind of closure that might just change how you see love, healing, and yourself. So, with that being said, welcome to the conversation you wish you could have with your ex. Thank you and welcome, Charles. Charles, welcome. Welcome, welcome. Well, listen, I got tongue tied right there. Listen, I got tongue tied. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know that we have history, so it may be a little awkward sometimes asking questions, but for those of you who are coming in, welcome. Don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button as you come in, especially if you want to hear more conversations like this, where I specifically talk about relationships. Today is a very special conversation because, first of all, my ex Charles don't do social media. So thank you, Charles. He don't do social media, but we really felt that this was the conversation that many people needed to have, and because both of us have done some work on ourselves.
Yeah.
After it's now been literally 20 years since. Yeah, it's been 20 years to the date, if you will, and we decided to. We actually started conversing on a fluke, if you will. Somebody left me a recording to say that they needed to reach out to Charles. And without hesitation, I reached out. I got in contact with his oldest daughter, and she let him know that I wanted to speak to him. So when him and I spoke, literally, it was like just picking up where you left off. You know how sometimes you have like a really good friend or a best friend or whatever, but y'all don't see each other for a long time because life. And when we started conversing, we've always been very playful and very silly with each other. So that just kept coming out time and time again. So excuse us if we do some little crazy, silly stuff, but we've just had time to really grow into who we are, grow into adults. And really, we've already had conversations about forgiveness and where we were at the time, and just trying to understand that both of us were kids, and both of us didn't have the training, if you will, the skills to really be a part of a healthy marriage. So again, thank you for coming today, Charles, to have this conversation that I know is going to bless somebody out there. So again, thank you for being here. Listen, go ahead and drop a comment in the comment section to let us know where you're watching this from. And if you could have a conversation with your ex, what would the question, think about it, what would the one question be if you can have a conversation with your ex? With that being said, Charles, my first question, are you ready?
I'm ready.
How would you describe our relationship to someone on the outside looking in, like our budding relationship before marriage, just the relationship meeting and all of the things? How would you describe our relationship?
Well, I'll never forget when I first saw you. It was they talk about love at first sight, and I experienced that with you. From the first time that I saw you, I knew that I would I knew you would be my wife. So how would I describe it? We were young, and we were trying to figure life out. Both of us away from home, in the military, new surroundings, and there's really no there's no blueprint to growing up. There's no roadmap. You kind of have to figure it out yourself. But I would say in the beginning, I was very insecure. I had low self-esteem, and I would mask the way I felt, and I would hide my true self, based on what I thought others expected from me. But as far as you and I go, I was in love with you from the first time I saw you. That's the truth of it. Yeah.
Okay, so you said a few things there that I want to tackle. We hear this thing a lot where it comes to men when they see women that they already know that they're going, what category that they're going to put them in. And so for me, you said that you knew that you were going to marry me. What was it about me that you could remember that made you say, I'm going to marry her, or she's going to be my wife?
Wait, we shouldn't use profanity? I need to clear that up before we get going.
Okay, well, I don't on my show usually. So
I'll take this back. I was smitten by your appearance. That was, because people tend to say looks don't matter, but I don't necessarily believe that. I believe there has to be some type of physical attraction for you to approach someone. So it was definitely your appearance caught my eye. But then when we had the opportunity to talk, and I found out that you were from, you came up in the church, as did I. So that meant a lot to me. I liked the way you spoke. You spoke very well. That meant a lot to me. And the way you carried yourself. You weren't. Well, we're talking about the late 90s. So all this thing on social media about drama queens, but you were happy. I could tell that you were full of life, and those things attracted to, they were attractive to me. And then, you was chocolate like me. So,
well,
but it was two kids in love, two young kids in love. And that's a beautiful thing. But,
yeah. Well, okay. So you were actually my first. I had thought about it. I was like, was he my first love? And I was like, yeah, he was my first love. So
yeah,
I don't know if I've ever said that to you, but yeah, you were my first love as well. The other thing that you just said just now that I had no idea about, and I guess it makes sense now. But you said that you had low self-esteem and insecurities. Well, you said insecurity, but I actually didn't know that. I didn't know that. It makes sense now because I also had low self-esteem, and my audience knows I've told them several times about me and my dark skin and being teased and everything. And so I remember when I met you, how beautiful you made me feel. And when we were in the room with other people, I remember where it felt like it was just you and I. You know how they have those movies and everybody fades away. I felt like that I really felt like that's what was occurring when you and I were in the room together, especially in our dating stage, if you will. I think I'll take that back. Throughout the marriage, you really made me feel seen and special. And that was something that I really always wanted. And that is something like the way that you treated me, the chivalry, the making sure that I was protected and that you provided, and to have the conversations, as much as I thought that they were not, well, let me say this. They were not superficial as far as I knew, but I didn't know that we could have gone deeper because again, we were kids and there was no blueprint. So now 20 years later, of course, I know that there could have been so many more conversations to be had, but from the information that we had and that we were exposed to growing up and being able to move through life with, I thought that we did a pretty good job. So you had low self-esteem. I had low self-esteem.
Right.
And we were two insecure people coming together trying to build a solid relationship.
Right.
And I think that some of that has a recipe for disaster already?
I mean, I've thought a lot on the things that happen in our relationship. And honestly, I tried throughout my adult years, I've tried to correct a lot of those character defects, and I've worked hard on it. And also, I found myself at times, you know, looking for the relationship that we had. I chased that for a long time. But I want to be clear about this. I live in reality. I don't think, what could have been or what should have been. I'm thankful for the things that happened. I'm thankful for the, I guess you could say, mistakes that I made. That's what life is. That's what life is about. You don't gain wisdom by never making a mistake. You gain wisdom by making a mistake and learning from those mistakes. So do I have regrets about some of the actions that I, committed against you? Absolutely. Do I wish that there were things that I wouldn't have done and that I could have done better? Not to sound, like I'm going back and forth, but absolutely, because when you love someone, and I truly loved you then as your boyfriend and as your husband, I truly loved you. But I was misinformed by misinformed people, a lot of.
Say that again. Say that again.
I mean, I was misinformed by misinformed people. One mistake that a lot of couples make is, instead of admitting the things that I got a moth flying around, but instead of admitting their fears to their mate, they hide them. And one thing I've learned throughout life is that secrets, they never make a situation better. So I would advise anyone, if you're young and in love, or if you've been together for years and you're in love, become vulnerable with your mate. Really talk about the things that bother you, because no one can resolve a relationship issue by themselves. So that's what I would say. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but Sean, you taught me a lot about myself, and also I grew a lot as a man from being in that marriage with you. So I was young, and I'm not the only one that made mistakes like that as a young married man. But I've learned from it. It can be a painful process to take a long, hard look inward at yourself, to be honest with yourself, because the first person that we lie to is ourselves, and that never solves anything. But go ahead, if you had something else you wanted to ask.
Of course, but no, I'm totally in agreement with what you're saying. It really is hard for most people to take a hard look in the mirror and to recognize their flaws and to take action to do better. Because I don't want to continue to be this person. I don't want to continue to hurt my partner. I want to be vulnerable. I want to stay in love. I want this marriage to continue to work, or in this relationship, and for not just for me, maybe for our child or children. And if you don't have children, maybe for your niece and nephew, or just the next generation, so we can actually put out this positivity specifically in our community, because there are a lot of broken homes and children coming from broken homes. And I love the way that you said it, which is inform people misinforming you. And I might have misquoted that, but I really love that, because not a lot of us have informed people in our lives that can actually say, correct us, right? Not try to drive in our seat with us, but to correct us, get us back on the road to say, okay, I hear you, but here's what I'm hearing that you're not saying, or let me help you get back on the road by, sharing my wisdom with you. And most of the time it's through story, right? When we start wagging the finger at the other person, they're not really taking it in. So I really appreciate how you worded that. why do you think, or I should say, what do you think made us last as long as we did? Because
we loved each other.
Okay.
I mean, I have never doubted that. Even when we were going through our divorce, it was obvious to me that we were just hurt from the things that had happened, I never doubted. And I'm not going to go too deep into what happened between us, but I will just say this. There was always respect between you and I. I felt that there was always a genuine love between you and I. People, unfortunately, people grow apart all the time. But I honestly believe that, because there were times years after we were divorced, where I've gone, I've been in other relationships and I have been cheated on in other relationships. And I would think to myself, well, she wasn't half the woman Sean was. And I want to take this idiot back, but.
Well, I didn't say that, y'all. Okay.
But, that's like I say, I would say this for couples that are watching. If your spouse or your significant other cheats on you, it's not always, if you really love them, people make mistakes. We're all human. I would say if you love that person, it's absolutely worth trying to work through it. If you don't resolve it, fine, part peacefully and respectfully and move on. But if you love someone, and you're, they cheated on you. Now, I don't condone, and we'll get into this later on, I don't condone violence against a man hitting a woman or a woman hitting a man, because as funny as it may sound, there are men who are physically abused by their mate. I was a victim of domestic violence from a previous relationship that I continue to stay in. But far going that, if there are things, we have to be able to show our mate grace. We have to be able to admit that, okay, we were hurt, but now how do we get past this? And I don't consider myself a relationship expert. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a published author. But what I do know is I believe that all people, whether you're male or female, we want to be heard. We want to be loved, and we want a healthy relationship, and I don't, at this point in my life, I don't believe that relationships should be a challenge. I think at this point in my life, a relationship should be more of a partnership, because the truth of the matter is women will tell anything and everything to their girlfriends and vice versa. Men will tell any and everything to the guy friends. But when it comes to their significant other, they want to pick and choose what they talk about. And that's not healthy, That's not healthy. So again, I'm rambling. So,
it's okay. It's all right. Did we No, you actually brought up a couple of things as I'm noticing that you're doing. You have a pattern here. Do you think that we were as vulnerable as we could have been?
No. Nope.
Okay, so do tell. Do you think that was from both sides or one-sided?
Well, I can't speak for you, but for me, I had a lot of fears of failure. It didn't help the fact that, coming out of the Navy, I was an alcoholic, and that alcohol and drugs never resolve anything, and that was but I also suffered from depression. I suffered from PTSD. Now I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying I didn't rather than deal with issues that I had, and I was young. You know, a lot of young guys want to they want to live life, but all right, let me put it like this. If the 52-year-old Charles could talk to the 25-year-old Charles, what I would tell him is anything outside of your home is a distraction and a waste of your time. That's what I would tell any young man. You know, if you have someone in your life that you love, it is worth all of your attention and all of your energy. And the good things in my life have come from a place where a healthy relationship was involved that I worked on, you know. But you know, this society, it sells illusions. You know, you look on TV or social media or whatever, and they always want to make it seem like have dressed women and alcohol is a sign of a good time. But from my experience, anytime that I've been, because I there was a time when we were separated that I was immersed in the streets in every aspect and any facet that you can think of. And you know, it's all an illusion, you know. Before I get too far gone, I want to say this. I live my life by a set of spiritual principles now. You know, if it wasn't until I honestly found that I reconnected with God that I was able to find some peace in my life.
Ooh, you better say that.
I'm not trying to convert anybody, but this is what I know. Sean and I both have traveled the world. Sean and I have both been to many places in the United States of America. And, you know, so I don't know where I was going with that. But,
listen, you was on the roll. I
was. But the point that I would like to make is, you know, happiness is an inside out job. You cannot fill a God-sized hole with a worldly solution. You can't, you know. And for me, everything that I was looking for when we were together, I already had. And I know that there's someone out there that may be in a similar situation, you know. So guys or ladies, you know, if the happiness that you're seeking outside of your home, chances are you already have it, but you just don't appreciate it, you know.
Okay, so you brought up a whole lot. Before I move forward, what I want to ask the audience, I want to ask you, ladies and gentlemen that are watching this, if you could, excuse me, that one person that got away, we're talking about husband and wife, right? But if there was a person that got away from you, what would you say to him or her? Whether it was apology, right? I want you to put it down in the chat just to give yourself an opportunity to think about what you would actually say to them, like how you wronged them. Would you apologize? What were some of the things that you would actually say to the person that got away? You're the one that got away. With that being said, okay, so I want to back up. You mentioned about the 52-year-old Charles to the 25-year-old.
Right.
Do you believe that the 25-year-old Charles would have been ready to hear the message of you already have it, basically stay out of the streets, there's nothing out there? Do you think you would have been ready to hear the wisdom from your older self?
I mean, who knows? But I will say this. I will say this. At that time in my life, I had no direction. You know, I took things for granted. You know, I mean, you know that I had gotten into tattooing and
oh yeah, I do remember.
Yeah. So I mean, things came easy as far as me trying to pursue something. But I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. But I knew that I had. Well, I knew that I had a woman that I loved. I knew that, you know, the career choices that I was making, I I liked everything about my life at that time,
Mhm.
but I allowed outside influences
Mm.
to affect my decision making. You know, you know, you know, would I have been? I think I would have.
No, you wouldn't have.
I,
No, you wouldn't have,
no,
sir. No,
and the reason,
no,
the
no,
reason I
sir.
think I would, the reason I think I would have is because I already knew what I had at home. I already knew it. You know, I mean, my family loved me.
You
What? What?
don't do that. Don't. Hey, we professionals. Stop it. Um. So okay. You felt that you knew that
Yeah,
you had at home.
yeah.
So how come we ended then? Like I feel like there's a disconnect there for me, right? So you knew that, but you weren't like taking the proper actions to make sure that we would stay together. So that there's a disconnect for me, and maybe the audience is wondering.
Well, I think we ended because of um. Why did we end? Well, I don't think now. Like I said, I can't speak for you. I
Of
can
course.
only, anything that may pertain to your part of the marriage, you would have to speak on.
Mhm.
But I was not. Well, first off, drugs and alcohol, never a solution. It's
Mhm.
always a divisive, or it drives a wedge into any relationship.
Okay.
So my personal opinion is the fact that I was not as honest as I should have been, the fact that I pursued my own self-interest,
Mhm.
um, and then also the drugs and alcohol. You
Okay.
know, I mean,
You
it's
know what?
not,
I want to cut you off on purpose
yeah,
because the drugs and alcohol. I don't remember because you called yourself an alcoholic earlier. I don't remember you being an alcoholic. I remember
mhm,
that you like alcohol, but there
mhm,
may be the secrecy that I just am unaware of. Maybe you
right,
were drinking a lot more than I
right,
realized that you were,
right,
or and the drug part, whether you name them or not, that's your thing. But I knew that you did one particular one,
yeah,
as far as drugs go. But in any event, I guess I because you masked them or hit them very well, I had no idea the
right,
severity.
right,
Because if you were asking 20-something-year-old Marshawn,
yeah,
are you married to and in love with a druggie and an alcoholic? That wouldn't have came to me at all.
right,
So you're saying these words, right? And putting those titles there. Did you
right.
figure this out by yourself? Or was it
No,
like going through therapy?
no,
Like how did you
no. I went through. I've been in. I've had therapy for years,
mm,
and honestly, because I wanted to know. Well, for many years, my relationships were not healthy,
okay.
you know, and I knew that it couldn't always be the woman's fault. You know,
Okay, now say, hold on, rewind that, y'all. Rewind
I
that. Go ahead, go ahead.
mean, but you know, to you, well, I'll say this. You know, everybody wants a good relationship. Everybody, wants someone to be with, or have someone. Uh, but from my experience, I had to put myself in position first to allow that woman to come into my life. I had to take
Mm,
some honest, um, I had to take some, make some honest admissions about me. And there was a time where I was celibate for over 3 going on 4 years, because I had to take the time to figure out, why I was unhappy with myself,
mm.
why um, I could attract a mate, but I couldn't keep a mate, you know.
Ooh.
So I couldn't, and I think I don't want to use all these broad strokes to describe society as it is, because I don't claim to have the remedy for anything, but I can just say that when I stopped looking, Well, first off, I limit myself to the type of music that I listen to, because I believe that when you allow things into your spirit, it affects you at a core level. I stopped. I'm very cautious about who I allow into my circle, and I cut up at times with some of my friends, but I watch my conversation very closely. So by me putting myself in position and me doing some honest work on myself, even before I attracted another partner or another mate. Even before that, I mean, I found a peace that I'd never had in my life. And if you're an unhappy person and you do find yourself in a relationship, chances are you'll be in an unhappy relationship. It's the old glass of water adage. If you have a glass of water and you put in one drop of dirt, then the whole glass is bad. So a lot of people go into relationships, you go through that honeymoon phase, the newlywed phase where, you have someone new in your life. And then, 3 or 4 weeks into it, the crazy comes out.
3 or 4 weeks, sheesh. That's all it get now. They don't even mask it longer than 3 or 4 weeks.
But I mean, for me, like I said, I just had to do that work on myself, and so with or without a partner, I'm fine with who I am.
I'm really happy to hear you say that, because I know that when you and I speak off of here, we've talked about like therapy and doing work on you, but we never talked about the nitty gritty like you're mentioning right now. And I'm really happy to hear that, because I also did some of the things that you're mentioning about, specifically about talking about being celibate for a period of time, so I can figure out what was I doing wrong, like how come I can't get to the next level.
Right.
And I never said this to you, and I don't know how immersed you are in my channel, but I've said it on my channel before, which is I really had a hard time trying to understand why I wasn't getting to the next level in my dating relationships, because I was already married. Like, I was already chosen before. So what's the problem? Like, I'm not being chosen again. And so I went on a dating roller coaster in and out of relationships for a long time. A long time. And one day I was just like, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. So I just shut it all down. It wasn't that I wasn't still looking at men, because I'm still attracted to men, but I was just like, I have to figure out why I'm not getting to the next level. And just like you mentioned, it was because of me. It was because of my low self-esteem. It was because of my insecurities. It was because of the things that I just didn't deal with prior to getting into another relationship. Like even our marriage, why did our marriage fail? Like really reflecting and not only pointing the finger at you, but pointing the finger at myself. Like I wasn't perfect, even though of course I tried to be perfect. I did. I tried my best to be perfect, but I know that we're imperfect people trying to create these perfect relationships. And so there was definitely things that I could have done better. And I know a lot of times I didn't start it a lot of times, and that's just the truth of the matter. I didn't start it, but what I did start doing after a while was playing the game. And what I mean by that is, okay, you're doing something for me, something to me. Now it's my turn to do something to you. So it was the tit for tat, and that's never healthy either. So I'm just glad that we both had an opportunity to grow mentally. And then the other piece is when you specifically talked about God and going inward with God and finding that inner peace that you won't find anywhere else, is because that really is so true. And we know that this is not we're not Bible scholars, and this is not the show to talk about, let's open up the scripture and everything. But by and large, I'm so at peace whether I enter another relationship or a marriage. I'm so at peace right now because of my relationship with God, because of me knowing who I am, because of me standing 10 toes down in my confidence and in my self-esteem. And when something isn't right, I don't try to what do they say? Put a square in a circle or peg or whatever that saying is that I'm messing up. But I don't try to just fit something in when it's not fitting. If it's not fitting, I move on. Like when there are men that showing me some level of attention, if it's not the level that I need, I move on. Like I really do, because it's just not. I don't have time to waste. And as you mentioned, we're older. I'm 48. I don't have a problem saying my age. I'm 48, and I just have other things to do in life if we're not on the same page and wanting to walk a very similar path. Not the same, but very similar path. So
I just want you to know, Sean, I'm trying my best not to cut up. So
what you gotta say, Charles?
Girl, you look good, girl. You look good, boy. You look No, but listen, while if I could say something
Sure.
About relationships. I had to go. Well, here's a shocker, audience. Sean, I've never said this to Sean. I'm actually in a relationship now, and yeah. So, but here's the thing that I have noticed this time around about my relationship. I have going piggybacking off what you said about being secure in who you are. I was a very jealous man for a long time.
Yeah,
that's not the case.
I remember that though. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, Sean, you was fine as hell. So I mean, all right, but that's not the case now. I was insecure. So the point that I'm making is, if we go 5 or 6 hours and we don't talk, I'm not wondering what she's doing. If I don't talk to her for 24 hours, I'm not wondering what she's doing, because a lot of it goes back to the I'm secure in who I am right now. And I'm unapologetic about the fact that God is at the center of my life, and that the problems that I had in the past was only because I ran from God, and the peace that I have in my life right now is because that I am in a closer walk with God. So I'm unapologetic about that. And if any of your viewers don't agree with that, then that's your problem. But I have no. I'm not, like I said, I know what how my life was, and I know how my life is now. So, I don't know, I'm rambling again, but for me, like I say, it's night and day, it's night and day. So,
okay, well, let me ask you this, and then I want to ask the audience as well.
Yeah, come on with it.
Why didn't you tell me you was in a relationship now?
Well, I didn't want to break your heart. I didn't want to break your heart.
You ain't want to break my heart. Boy, shut up. Listen, I want y'all to tell me why y'all think he didn't tell me why he in a relationship currently. Right now. I ain't never
it's new. It is new. Well, I mean, we're full disclosure. Now, if you were not in California and you were closer to me, then I absolutely. I mean, come on, Sean. I told you I thought about making a trip out there. Just I didn't want to come out there to see the coast. Hell, I done been around the world. I know what the beach looks like. But I think the only reason that you and I are not in a relationship is because of the geographical difference. Yeah, that's the only reason why. My mother still loves you. My family still loves you.
I'm lovable. Come on, I'm lovable. What's the problem?
Yeah, so I mean, come on, what are we, like 2,200 miles apart? Come on,
probably more than that. I don't know.
Yeah, come on,
man. I get it, but yeah, audience, let me know your answer. Okay.
Yeah. Somebody send this to Tyler Perry. Tell him to make a movie about this.
Wow. Okay, let's jump back into this because you cut up. Did we ever seriously discuss marriage counseling?
We did. We did.
Okay, so what stopped us from following through then?
I really don't. I mean, I'm remembering bits and pieces, but at that time, it just wasn't. It wasn't accepted in the Black community. I'm just gonna be from my standpoint.
Okay.
People would say, "Oh, that's white folk stuff," and blah.
Mm-hmm.
But and then also it was definitely ego on my behalf. If I can't figure it out, then it's not worth figuring it out.
Okay, your words, not mine, because I do remember getting some pushback.
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, I'm gonna tell you, Sean. I didn't come on here to lie about anything. I didn't come on here to sugarcoat anything. The truth is always the best remedy.
It is.
Always.
It is.
So if there's anything you want to know about back then, ask it now, and I'm gonna lay it out.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So I know that you mentioned ego was involved when it comes to counseling or therapy or back in the day. Mm-hmm. So could it have meant maybe to yourself, your younger self, that our marriage or even you were broken?
Oh, I was definitely broken.
No. Could not going to therapy specifically mean that you were broken or our marriage was broken as to why we didn't go, besides the fact of ego and outside influences?
Well, I'll say this again. I can only speak on me. I can only speak on me. So are you asking was I broken?
No, your thought process as to why we didn't go forward with therapy or marriage counseling. In your mind, did you, besides it being your ego, could it have meant in your mind that our marriage is broken? So if we go to therapy, our marriage is broken. That's why we're going to therapy. Or we go to therapy because I'm broken. Like
no. I don't. I didn't even think of it in terms like that.
Okay.
I didn't even think of it in terms like that. I mean, at that time in my life, everything was two-dimensional. It was either black or it was white. It was no gray area. I was very self-centered. I mean, it's funny that I say that out loud because I did have low self-esteem, but I was self-centered. It sounds crazy, but looking back on it, that's the best way I could describe it.
Okay, so you mentioned something about society and it not being in our community, like accepting in our community, specifically therapy. So if you can remember, what were you conditioned to believe about therapy or getting outside help, period?
Well, at that point in my life, man, that's a good one. At that point in my life, the company that I kept, it was like I viewed therapy as like some hocus pocus type deal.
Okay.
Well, first off, I didn't trust therapy because I didn't trust me. I didn't trust myself. So again, and then, you can't, I don't want to blame everything on youth, on my age, because at this point, I know in the world somewhere there's a 21-year-old, 22-year-old, 25-year-old that's killing it, at some point. And I mean, at some point, you just have, at some point I just had to admit that, I was just wrong. I'm not trying to use a lot of words to fix it up. I was just wrong. Honestly, I was a fucking idiot.
Okay. Okay. Your words, not mine. So
I'm gonna open these blinds up so I can get a little bit more light coming in. Okay.
You're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, you're fine. So just to let y'all see what I got to deal with. Okay, so what therapy? Do you think that if we would have, and obviously you don't know, right? But do you think that if we would have gone to therapy, that it could have saved us, or maybe say that y'all need to separate even sooner than we actually did?
Well, I'll say this, not to dodge your question.
Dodge. There's that dodgeball.
I'll say this. I am the man I am today from the mistakes that I made in the past.
Okay.
Do I think therapy could have helped? Yeah, I think it could have helped. Given that we chose, because not all therapists are good, you know.
True. Absolutely.
And at the same time, everybody doesn't go to therapy for the right reason. Some people go to therapy to appease their partners. You know, some people go to therapy to be able to place blame on the other partner. You know, so let me phrase it. Let me frame it like this: if we were both willing to work on our marriage, and we were blessed enough to find a good therapist, then yes, under those conditions, I think that our marriage would have worked. Now, let me flip that. The fact that we went through what we went through was one of the greatest sources of my growth. Also, you know, the relationship that you and I have, most exes don't have this.
Yeah, true.
You know, I can honestly say that I've always loved you, and that I will always love you because I know the type of woman that you are. You know, so, and I'm thankful for that. You know, I was our conversations, like when we first got back in contact with each other, our conversations were always they were always good. And we always stayed on the phone for like an hour, you know. I know you
longer, but whatever, you know. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I know you still thinking about Big Daddy, you know what I'm talking about, but that's okay.
Delete that. Delete that.
I mean, honestly, Sean, we were and we are friends, you know, and that's rare, you know, whether it's a platonic relationship or, you know, an intimate relationship. I value that, you know. So, I mean, I don't know.
Okay. So you was about to go there, so I'm going to go there.
Come on with it.
Right. But let me just preface this with that we're going to speak on this moment, right? Because this moment was a defining moment for me that made me say, okay, enough.
Right.
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 But I want to speak about the moment without placing blame on one another or even re-traumatizing either one of us. Because the goal is actually healing and truth. So without getting into triggering details, if you will, how would you describe?
I'm gonna say this, Sean. You say it however you want to say it. Trust me, you're not wrong.
I'm saying I'm good. Okay. So I'm gonna be real here. There was an incident of Charles choking me. This was the defining moment for me to walk out the door. And one of the main reasons why we're no longer a couple, right? So he ended up choking me. This was the one and only time that this happened, but for me, that was enough. Like, I'm not a punching bag, and so it was time for me to go. But with that being said, how would you describe what led up to that moment of you being, I guess, angry enough to choke me?
At that point in our marriage, there was cheating going on both sides.
Wait a minute now. Hold on now. This is the first time my ex-husband has admitted that he cheated on me. This is the first time.
Yeah.
He knew that I cheated on him because this was a part of the choking incident. But he has never once said it to me, even though in my gut, I knew it. Yeah. So I'm getting hyped because it's my first time my ears have heard this out loud. Okay. Go ahead, Charles. Okay, cheating on both sides. Go.
And there was also alcohol involved. You know, I can't stress that enough. No good decision has ever come from an intoxicated state. Now that's just my experience. Some people may disagree with that, but from my experience, no good outcome has ever come from alcohol. Okay. So I'll say that first. So I had been drinking. My ego as a man had been crushed. And the fact that, well, first let me say this. 100% wrong for me to put my hands on you. 100% in unless I was defending my life, there was no reason for me to put my hands on you, because I mean, it's just, I wasn't raised like that. But at that point in my life, that was the environment that was the type of people those were the type of guys I hung around, you know. And I did do that separately. I separated my street life from the home life, you know. And so I don't blame you, you know. I do not blame you at all for choosing to leave me. Hell, I would have left me, you know. So, and to anyone who's out there going through domestic violence, it's a hard. I'll say this: a lot of women don't make it out of those situations. Now, not to say a lot of men and women don't make it out of those situations. Now, not to say that I would have taken Sean's life, but no, absolutely not. If any one of my 3 daughters was in a situation and they went through what I put Sean through, I would support them 100%, you know, because a lot of times in relationships, men tend to forget and women tend to forget that their spouse is someone else's child, someone else's sibling, you know. And at that time, you know, I was so possessive. You know, I viewed you as my property. Even though I had violated the sanctity of our marriage, even though I was wrong 7 ways from Sunday, that's what it was. It was self-ego and me trying to control the situation. Yeah, so no. I think that was just, I don't want to say our marriage was doomed, but where we were, I just didn't see. I didn't know how it would end. I just knew it would end. And that's me looking back, you know.
Okay, because that actually was going to be my next question. Was in the moment, did you know what was going to happen for the future of our relationship, our marriage specifically? But you just answered it. Also, I just want to say, for those of you who are watching now, or those who are going to watch it later on the replay, I know that we are laughing and joking, but that's just our relationship. But specifically when it comes to the domestic violence, you might have seen me laughing or even him laugh. We know that domestic violence is not a funny subject at all. It's just him and I have already processed. We have already apologized. We have both forgiven. And it was a one-time incident. Not that matters that it was only one time, because it happened, right? But at the same time, we're not just making light of the situation. In the moment, I was absolutely, I can't even say that I was scared, because, and I've shared this with Charles. For me, I literally had a out-of-body experience in that moment, where even though my body was underneath him, I was literally on top of him watching the situation. And so I don't know if you can remember, but I don't even remember gasping for air, because I wasn't there, if that makes sense. And it was, I don't even know how long it was. I don't think it was that long per se. Obviously, I'm still here. But at the same point, I knew that I was like, that this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I signed up for. And I've taken ownership, and I don't even know if I've ever said it to you, but I've apologized for me also cheating, because me cheating didn't help the situation, as you just mentioned. It never helps the situation. We both were obviously not receiving what we wanted. And I think that if we would have had more conversations and being open and vulnerable, all of the things that we were saying, and even taking accountability, that maybe the cheating would even occur had we been mature enough to actually have conversations about the things that we need, the things that we're not receiving, as far as the reasons why we were cheating on one another. So for me, it was mainly the emotional detachment. And after a while, I did feel like I was being taken for granted, and the lovey-dovey Charles that I was used to was like fading away, and he was in the streets a lot more. And, not to make excuses, but there was definitely, I was lacking and missing. For sure. I was missing you because the guy, I didn't want to be with him. Yeah. And him and I had conversations. I don't talk to him anymore or anything like that. But him and I have had conversations at the time, like, we don't want each other like that. Like, I don't want you to, leave your person, and because he was married at the time. And so I didn't want him to leave his wife because I didn't want to leave Charles. I wanted the piece that I was missing. But truthfully, I wanted that from and with you. And so anyway, I just wanted to preface that we know that domestic violence is absolutely a serious thing. And we have already processed it and forgiven one another, which is why we're able to make little jokes here and there and kind of just breeze past it, even though we know it can be a very serious situation. So I have a final question about that, and then we can move forward, which is, what would you say to a woman or even to a man where they're saying, well, just one incident is not enough for me to leave. Let me just stay. What are your thoughts or opinions for that?
Wow. I wouldn't tell them anything. I would suggest a few things. The first thing I would suggest is taking ownership in whatever part that you played in it, whether you're the aggressor or the victim, and looking at that. Secondly, I would ask them, and 9 times out of 10, drugs and alcohol are involved. From my experience.
Okay.
But hurt people. Most abusers were abused at some point in their life. And like, again, I say, I'm not a doctor or a psychiatrist or anything, but people have to ask themselves the hard questions, and it's also about keeping yourself in position. A lot of times people who are, from my experience, who are victims of abuse are in a codependent relationship, whether it be they're not financially able to leave that situation, but there are resources for that. So if you're not financially able to do it on your own, there are women's shelters that will house mothers and children. Now, for a man, unfortunately, there aren't very many resources available for us. But I would say, if you're being abused, today is the day that you need to start looking for a way to separate yourself from that situation. My opinion, as a man who has perpetrated abuse upon you, Sean, and as a man who I was in a 11-year physically and emotionally abusive relationship, I would say that it's never okay. And if you're not doing something to get out of that situation, you are accepting that situation. Because my life didn't change until I got myself away from that relationship. So, I mean, my heart goes out to anyone that has to endure that. But chances are the person that's abusing you, when I was an abuser, I was definitely hurt. I was definitely broken. And I blamed everyone else except me. And, being out of the relationship that I was in, where I was the victim of abuse, and being able to look back and reflect on it, she was definitely hurt, and I wish no ill will on her. And I pray that she's either found help or is trying to find help, but it's just not, there's nothing good about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, you brought up some. So there's a stark contrast. Me, one time out the door. You just said you were in an abusive, emotionally and physically, for over 11 years.
Correct.
So, and the audience may be wondering, why did you stay so long? And not, I know that's a complicated question.
It is, but
so, yeah.
we had 2 children together.
Mm-hmm.
And I was afraid that if I left that relationship, that because she wasn't only aggressive and abusive towards me, but if I wasn't there to intervene for the children, they would kick it as well. And I couldn't see myself leaving defenseless children in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
say, yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll move forward. We'll move forward. Thank you for answering. Do you think that our marriage ending was a failure or a completed lesson?
Well, I mean, look at us, Sean. We turned out all right.
Well,
We turned out okay. I mean, it was just a lesson of life, you know. Like I mean, I don't consider it a failure. I don't. I would consider it a failure if we had separated, never saw each other again, and our lives had fallen to pieces. But I mean, look at us. You know, look at what you're doing. This platform that you have in a world full of fakes is genuine, you know, and it's needed. And I mean, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I do very well for myself. You know, I provide for my children. I know what sickness looks like because at one point I was a sick individual. You know, I mentor men now. I volunteer in the church, you know, and like I said earlier, you know, no one becomes wise by never making a mistake. We only gain wisdom through making those mistakes and learning from them, and not only learning from them, but applying the principles that we've learned from it. So the way I live my life today is I try to make a living amends for, I can never take back the wrong that I've done. But what I can do is I can be an honest and man, and I can, you know, not just give these lovely words, but have intentional actions. You know, I do good on purpose. You know, so yeah, man. I mean, no, Sean, I'm gonna tell you, I was blessed from the first day that I met you, and you continue to bless my life. You know, if nothing more than just, you know, reminding me that all women are not, you know, gold diggers. All women are not, you know, looking for 5 minutes of fame. You know. So yeah, no, I wouldn't consider anything about. Did we make mistakes? Yes, we made mistakes. But did we fail? No, we didn't fail. Not at all.
Okay, so
Not
I'm
at
gonna
all.
say this. I put in my time with you. So if I'm looking for gold right now, I need some gold. Anywho, okay, so I know I can't help myself. No, I agree. I agree with that. I don't think it was a failure either. At
No.
one point, I did. At one point, I absolutely did because my dream had been crushed. My dream
Yeah.
was married one time, to have a child with one husband.
Yeah.
You know, a white picket fence and blah blah
Yeah.
blah. So at one time, I did think it was a failure, and so now
Man, I got to hit this vape. Now I didn't held out long enough. I got to hit this vape.
oh my god, really gone? What the? Really? The wow. Let's move forward and talk about life after our marriage ended. So
Yeah.
before, so in the brief sentences or words, what can you let us know about what life has taught you since our divorce?
You know that old saying, you don't what how does it go? Well, I didn't realize how good I had it. So I would say this to anyone out there that's in a relationship and they're thinking of, let me hold on. That's a lot. I don't believe you ever find the person that you're looking for if you're always looking. I believe that the miracle will happen during the time that you're working on yourself. So continue to work on yourself, you know, Um, me, this is what I would say. This is what worked for me. I reconnected with God. God never left me. I was the one that turned my back on God. The first thing I did was I rekindled my relationship with God, and I allowed Him in my life. Every facet of my life revolves around becoming a better man, living and doing things as the way God would intend for me to do that. So the person that I'm with now, I will say this: if you're truly working on yourself, there is someone in your daily path, that is admiring you. Because the person that I'm with now, I had no idea that for 9 months she noticed me, and she never said anything. So I would, from my experience, while I was busy working on me, it was noticed by someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I strongly believe that if you're truly working on yourself, people notice. People notice. So treat people kindly. If you're a dishonest person, work on that, because I was a compulsive liar for many years. And I mean, let's be honest, we all lie. I just don't lie as much now. And I don't lie.
You're not a compulsive liar.
I don't lie to deceive. I don't. The lies that I tell now, it's always to sympathize with someone else and try to make them feel better. So, I mean, that may sound a little ironic, but so I would say work on yourself. You're being noticed. And you're probably going to have to go through a couple of relationships to find, that person for you. That's just how it is. Catch and release.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So, what do you now want that you didn't even know to ask for back then?
I'll tell you, it's not what I want, it's what I'm willing to accept. I will not settle for disrespect on any level. I will not be, I won't accept manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna, I mean, I don't have to say this. I'm pretty sure your audience can see this, but I'm a man, and there are certain responsibilities and duties that I have as a man. I don't need a woman trying to be the man in a relationship. So, but at the same time, if you as a man are not holding up your end of the bargain, don't be surprised if you're getting pushed out the way. So.
Well, that's a whole listen. We ain't got time for that conversation. Maybe I had you back just to talk about that right there. Okay, so we're getting ready to wrap up. This is my last question, and if you have any questions for me, don't hesitate. But this is my last question for you. So, what's something you want people to know about your version of healing after our divorce?
It wasn't overnight.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was, I had gotten to a point where I was sick and tired of myself,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know why I was sick and tired of myself.
Mm-hmm.
It got to a point where, I had to surrender. I had to admit my failures. I had to take a long, honest look at the why and the how. And I had to, I'm not perfect, but I gave it my honest effort. I gave it my honest effort. And, if, I don't know, I don't want to sound corny or anything, but this is the happiest I've ever been in my life. And, healing is a painful process. It's not an easy process, but it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. I don't know if I answered your question, but.
Yeah, no, that's the answer. The answer that you gave is the answer. So, listen, I really appreciate you coming here today and speaking with my audience and them, just opening up your life and our life or past life. and just sharing yourself, because I think that this is very important. It can be very healing for other people out there. You, again, you and I have already apologized and kind of moved forward, but I wanted to come here and, well, excuse me, collectively we decided to come here and have this conversation so we can be a part of breaking generational curses and having people to open up their eyes. And couples, if you're a couple watching this, or if you're separate, meaning woman is watching it but you in a relationship, and man watching it but you're in a relationship, and you're having some of these same struggles, the one bit of advice that I totally could hand out, if you will, is the vulnerability piece, as well as communication simultaneously. Being able to talk about those things, being able to release, being able to ask for forgiveness, like all of the things that you know that you have wronged your partner on, and even that you've been wronged on, but specifically taking ownership and accountability for how you're showing up. I think that that can make a world of difference for, if you're trying to stay in your relationship or your marriage, it can make a world of difference for turning things around. But you do have to be committed, and you do have to understand that it's still going to be a long process, maybe even painful process, with taking accountability and even being able to open up and answer those why questions right now. And I think that it's very important for each of us to really take a hard look in the mirror and take ownership for how we're showing up in our relationships, and not to continue to blame it on outside forces. Although, and I know Charles mentioned some here today with drugs and alcohol, but at some point you still have to take accountability for you. If that's not working out for you, in his case, he decided to put those things down. And he said that this is the happiest he's ever been. And we're not trying to convert anybody, but highly, highly recommend seeking comfort in God, and really asking for forgiveness and repenting and actively turning your life around. So with that being said, I love you guys. Thank you for participating. If you have any more questions as we're wrapping up, definitely leave them in the comment section below. And I really appreciate you, Charles. Do you have anything to say to the audience before we leave?
Nope, that's about it. Watching Sean, I call him Munchie. Ah!
You know what?
Sean.
Goodbye.
Hey, Marshawn. Now, you know I never call you Marshawn, but I'm gonna say
you better stop it. You better stop
I never call you Marshawn. All right, Sean. All right.
Yes, leave it there.
Keep it up, man. Just be honest with yourself, and if you're not, well, I mean, just be honest with yourself, and everything else, will work itself out. That's a booger. Yeah. All right.
Bye, y'all. Bye, y'all.